Hello, everyone. Welcome to Submin Mentors and Mentee session on headless training. So, I would like to extend my thanks to Horizontal uh, to their continuous support. We would like to discuss about today's session, that is integration of Sitecore with React and Next.js, and Krishna will be presenting it. And we are excited to explore these technologies together and provide a valuable insights to the community. And feel free to drop if you have any question in the chat box. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Krishna.
Yes. Hello all. So in today's session, we are going to talk about Sitecore JSS, how we can integrate from the front-end technology, React and JS point of view. So let me introduce me first. My name is Krishna Patel. I am working as a senior DX engineer at Horizontal. I have completed 5 years in IT industry with working with front-end technology like React and Next.js. And I also completed 3 years with Sitecore Headless technology. And this is my LinkedIn profile. I'm used to write blogs on codebykrishna.wordpress.com. And today's session, we are going to talk about Sitecore JSS first. So, what is headless? What is Sitecore JSS? Which is already covered by Varalakshmi and Akash. We are going to uh, quick look into those functionality, and then the main is how we can set up JSS project, the file structure of it, .NET .env file configuration, and after that we will look into main React features like state versus prop, how we can configure states, and how we can work with the effects of the React components, and then we will look into simple tabs component example. And if time permits, then we will talk about Next.js Router functionality, which is part of the Next.js, not with a React.js technology, but it is also important. So now let's look into first what is headless development. So basically, headless referred to a software architect where front-end part is decoupled, or maybe we can say separated from the backend technology. So in traditional monolithic setup, the front-end part was integrated with the backend technology. So what happened if we need to change anything, any CSS also, we need to dependent on the front backend side, and front end was rendering directly with the backend output. So uh, the main feature of the headless development is front end and backend will be separated and will be independent with each other. And uh, key features how that give us main benefits of the headless technology is we talk about the how it is independent from the front end part, so it gives us flexibility to independently work with the front end technology. Also, it make our application more faster than it make our users for the better experience. So how it will work? So if we are using latest JavaScript framework like React.js, Vue.js, Angular, and Next.js, it gives us a single page application. So it make our application more faster, and for the user, it gives us a best user experience. Also, with headless, it is very easy to integrate and with other JavaScript framework as well. So how we can achieve or we can implement a headless project in our site code project? So the answer is Sitecore JSS. So basically, Sitecore JSS is a framework. JSS is stand for JavaScript um, services, and its framework is provided by the Sitecode to build a model web application using JavaScript framework. We can use Angular, Next.js, React, and Vue.js as well with Sitecode JS technology. And the benefits of this is, first of all, it is headless architect. So basic that we already discussed, that it gives a backend and front end separately. Also, we can integrate with all the latest modern framework of the JavaScript. It gives us a component-based development. As we all know, React and Next is purely component-based framework, and last but not the least is integrated and disconnected modes. So it gives us a two type of modes, like connected mode, in which we can directly connect with the Sitecore CMS with the front end part, and second, disconnected mode. So we can implement disconnected mode in different way. So in if I give example, so in my current project we are using Storybook for the disconnected mode. So we can independently integrate any technology for the disconnected mode. And how we can achieve Sitecore JSS development workflow. So there are two ways. First one is code first development flow, and the second one is Sitecore front development mode. So, what happened in code first development mode is we need to initially set up the development tools and environment. Then we need to define site code templates using code, and then we need to develop front end components, all the front end part. Configure all the components, features, and everything. Then we will deploy to the site code. This is how code first development workflow work. Second is site code first development work. So most of the project we are using site code first development flow. So what happened in this flow is first we configure site. First, we set up from the site code, and then we configure the modeling in site code. Then we create layout, rendering, content authoring. We create a component over there, add data source over there, and then we will integrate Sitecore JSS integration. Then we set up the Sitecore JSS integration and simply work with connected or disconnected mode for the functionality. So in previous section, we looked into how we can configure first three step by Akash and Varalakshmi. So now it's time to look into Sitecore JSS integration. So um, just a minute. Okay, so there is one document by Sitecore team for how we can how we can integrate a JSS application. So there are three ways: NPX, NPM, and YARN. We can achieve a full setup using this way, and the command CLI is very clear. Create Sitecore JSS. It is same like create next application, create React app, similar like this. So we can set up our whole project using this CLI, but there are some required argument that we need to take care. So how the first argument is template. It is mainly the array comma separated value, which as per our project requirement, we can integrate our template that we need next. This is mainly for the Next.js. So we need Next.js JSS, we need Next.js style guide or SX, anything as per our requirement, we can add. Then second is app name. So we need to define our project name. For that, we can use the app name. That dictionary, basically, it is the part of the application. Then fetch with. So basically, this is the important required parameter. Why it is important? Because if you think about front-end part is independent and back-end part is integrated, so how we can configure both together? So for that, first we need Sitecore API key, and based on Sitecore API key, we are going to call API. To get all the data from the Sitecore CMS side, and we will use into the front-end application. So to get all the data, there are two types of method. First, REST API, and second is GraphQL API. So you can choose whatever you want based on your requirement. Then it is pre-rendered. So pre-rendered is again Next.js feature. So next, as we all know that Next.js gives us two type of functionality for the project, like static side generation, SSG, it will generate our page at build time. And second one is server side rendering, which is SSR. Every time we click on the page from the browser side, it will render whole page again and get all the information using the fetch method again. So default, the preference is SSG because it build all the pages at build time and give our project more fast effect. Then language. It is based on your requirement, what language you need to configure. I think default language is ENUS. Then host name as well. It is mainly the host of your Sitecore instance. So this is CLI command. Let's look into how we can set up Sitecore JSS in our application. So I'm copying this CLI you command here and okay, this is a Mitre site that we configured in our last session. So this is whole JSS setup, Sitecore headless setup basically. In Sitecore setup, there is one SRC folder. In SRC folder, we can configure our Sitecore JSS frontend application over here. So I'm opening the integrated terminal for this SRC folder and I will simply paste that CLI command here. It will ask me some questions like where would you like to your a new app created? So I simply enter my project name over here like name session 2. Would you like to use the pre-post hook for the LinkedIn check? So basically, LinkedIn is used for the compiling time to find compiling time error or issues. You can add in your project to give us proper best practice scenarios. Right now, I'm saying no for it. And then, what is your Sitecore host name? Use if deploy on to Sitecore. So right now, I'm not deploying. I will simply use in the connected mode. So I'm simply entering without entering any data. Um, how would you like to pre-render your application? So again, we discussed previously that there are two options in Next.js, SSG and SSR. So I'm simply using SSG to make my application more faster. Then are you building for the Sitecore XM Cloud? So I'm saying yes. Then it gives us options for template initialization, Next.js style guide, Next.js SXA, Next.js multi-site. So as per your requirement, you can select. And now you can see over here is in SRC, this PLI will create one folder structure as per our project name, Submin Session 2. And in Submin Session 2, it is simply the create next application file structure. So uh, you can simply run your Next.js command over here and it will work. So right now it's taking time to install all the node packages as per requirement. So meanwhile, we can look into the file structure. So there is one file structure, VS Code over here. It takes some extension settings that are required for Visual Code. It is not required for us. Then we have public folder. We can add our logo and images over there. Then it have script folder in script. Okay, so this is Sitecore JSS is mainly the next using Next.js application and Next.js structure, but Sitecore is adding their out-of-the-box functionality over here. So if you see here in script, there are some uh, f- uh, files that Sitecore added here, like install pre-push hook, then scaffold component. It is coming with a Sitecore out-of-the-box functionality. Then there are some Sitecore configuration for packages and all. Again, it is provided by Sitecore. Then there is one SRC folder. Mainly, we are working on this folder. Then I will talk about this later. Then we have env file. So in env file, we will configure all the data so we can easily connect our backend Sitecore CMS with our front-end technology. Then these are the simple files that we we also looked in simple create next application like package.json. So we all know that package.json is mainly for node modules library that we are using. It also have some scripts like if you want to run a connected mode, we can use npm run start connected mode. If you want to build your application, then you can use npm run build. It will build all the pages from the XM Cloud path and front-end code. Then if you want to run in your local the production build, then you can run npm run production. So there are some script that you can use also. Uh, there are package JSON that will log the version history of the node modules. There are prettier setting for the prettier formatting. Then next config, we have next config. It is same as our simple next create next application structure with some additional features that provided by the site code. So now let's look into the SRC. So in SRC, we have asset folder. In that we can add our font or our stylings. Right now it is app.css, the simple styling. Again, this BYOC is a build your own component. Again, it is given by the site code for out of the box bundle for the external component. Then there is one component folder. So whenever we add any component, we will gonna need to add in this folder. So it can easily uh, connect and it can is basically while the compiling, we can easily get to know that this component and it will simply render on our browser. Then library. So library is all lib folder is also given by the Next.js, but there are some additional files that are coming from the site code out of the box functionality like component props, then middleware. In middleware, we can overwrite the URL which are coming from the site code. Then site resolver also there. Then sitemap fetcher is also there. Then pages. So if you know about the Next.js, Next.js gives us a dynamic routing. We don't need to configure any routing or we don't need to worry about the routing part as Next.js automatically gives us simple and integrated solution. So in normal Next.js application, if we need to configure page, we need to add pages over here. There is app page, error page, 404 page. So if I need to create a home page over here, so I will add no file like index.tsx for the home page. If I need to add about us page, then I will simply add about.tsx over here. But in Sitecore, this is not the way it will work because if you think about in Sitecore XM Cloud from the CMS side, we are configuring the pages, and based on that page, we have to render our data. So if I configure homepage over here, it will not work because we are going to configure that homepage from the CMS side. In that, we will add our placeholders and components data source. So we need to render that page. So for that, how we can achieve this? So Sitecore also giving us a layout.tsx file. So basically, this is the file from where our uh, components will render. So right now it is giving us JSS.main. But if you remember in our previous session, we have created three different placeholder. So let me copy that layout over here. Just a minute. So so apart from let's look into the HTML part. So first, what we render in browser side. So it will render HTML part first. Then HTML tag it will render title. So this is the head script which is again Next.js feature. It's in this, it will simply render the title favicon icon, IOC icon. Then if you need to render any third-party script, then you can use the script over here. Basically, this will the browser title and description. Then in the body part, we are rendering the div which have this class name, and in that there is one placeholder which call as a headless header. So in CMS side, we already configured this layout. In layout, we configured few components, and it what will this placeholder will do in this placeholder, it will simply render the component that we have configured in XM Cloud CMS. Same as for the headless main and footer main. So this is how this layout will work. And for any pages, this layout will render and simply render the components that is configured from the CMS side for this for that pages. So now our next step is to configure our env file. So here in env file, let me also copy that env file as well. So in env file, we are using some environment variables for to connect our backend and frontend over here for the connected mode. So first environment variable is public URL. So if you are going to use any different URL for connected mode, you can mention over here. So it is also mentioned all the environment variable description in the comment section. Like if you pass and if you don't pass anything, it will take HTTP local 3000 as a default. So if you want to change any URL, you can pass public URL over here. Apart from that, it will take localhost 3000 as a default. Then JSS editing secret. It is mainly for the Sitecore editor. Right now we don't require, so I'm not passing anything over here. So right now I am in when we set up the XM Cloud, this is the API Sitecore API key that I passed here to connect my XM Cloud CMS with my front-end technology. Then Sitecore API host. Right now, we are also not using it. Mainly, it is Sitecore hostname that need to build our application. Right now, we are not using. So I'm passing. I'm not passing anything. Then there is one field that while we are setting our project while using CLI, there was one that if you use how you want to fetch your data from the CMS side. And in CLI, we define that GraphQL. So here there is one more variable for the GraphQL call. And if you are fetching your data with GraphQL, then you need to define your GraphQL endpoint over here as well. For all the project, I noticed that this is the same um, endpoint. Second, our site site name maintain that we configured in XN Cloud. Then if you have any default language, you can configure over here. GraphQL services retry. So mainly, as per this description, how many times should your GraphQL layout, dictionary, and error message want to uh, services reach a fetch when endpoint rate limit is reached. So you can configure from 0 to any number times that many times that you have to retry when the services was not working properly. So currently it is 3, but you can also mention change as per your requirement. So I notice in my current project we are not using this feature, so I'm simply adding 0 over here. Then disable SSG. So if this is again Next.js feature, you want to enable SSG or SSR. So based on your requirement, you can change this environment variable. If you want SSG, then pass empty. Don't no need to pass anything over here. But if you want to disable SSG and you want SSR in your application, then you can write true over here. So that make your application based on your requirement. Right now, I'm not passing anything because I need my application faster and need to generate my pages at build time. Second, this is for the debugging purposes, and this Sitecore Edge context is again for the Sitecore Edge scenarios. This is for the personalization CDP Edge, and this side we have added for the deploying URL. So if you are deploying anything on right now, I my site is deployed on Vercel. So this side is added. Mainly is it is for deployed version. So right now I'm removing this because we don't need we are only connect using connected mode. So now let's start our application. So I go to the integrated terminal for this project structure and simply add npm run start connected. Okay. So now you can see here is our application is running now and it shows orange boxes for the components. That means from the CMS side for the home page, these are the components that configured, but from the front end side, we haven't configured or we haven't added those components. So now let's configure one component. So I'm configuring rich text now, but I want to see how, what are the variables, what are the fields are coming for the rich text component. So there is one uh, command that you can run on the console log page. So basically, if I go to the view page source and line trap, this is what we got on the uh, build time that in this script which have next data ID, in that script we will get all the data that we required for the that is coming from the CMS side using GraphQL data. So I added this command and simply getting the data from it so I can easily check what data are coming from CMS over here. So if I go to the root level, there are display name as this is the home page, page related fields, item ID or placeholder. So as you remember that in placeholder, we saw that we configured headless footer, headless header and main. So first it will render headless head. So in headless head, there is one more that one component we configured is partial design dynamic placeholder. So this is that component. Then it will render the components from the headless main. So here you can see from the backend side, rich text is configured, then image is configured, then container is configured. After that, it will render the placeholder of a headless footer. And again, in that we have from the backend side, it is configured partial design dynamic placeholder. So let's create one component, rich text. So if you open the component in that component, you can get component name, which is a rich text, then data source path. Again, in fields, you can get um, the fields that configure from the backend data source. Right now, it is text over here, and in text, there is one value field, and in value, HTML structure is coming. So let's create this component. So I'm simply adding that rich text component in component folder with same name dot tsx file. Okay. So if you see, it's now it is not giving us orange box, and it is rendering our component over here. So based on our requirement, we can add our component and render our component data. So so mainly rich text have two fields. So okay, first of all, we are using TypeScript, so we need to define our data, what data we will get and what we are returning. So we are getting field over here, fields. I'm passing fields and creating one interface for this rich text component. So if you see in fields, we are getting text with capital T, and in the text there is value with a small letter, and in that we are getting whole HTML structure. So the data type will this HTML block will be string. So fields in text I'm getting value and simply string. And what this component will return. So it will return a JSX element. We also need to define the return type of it. So I will simply define the return type. It will be JSX dot element element. And here I will simply add one div with dot text dot value. So here, if you see, we are getting the data and it is rendering the data, but it is converting our HTML structure into the string. So what we need to do is we need to set inner HTML instead of this. So now this is rendering properly. So if I inspect this, you can say we are getting the data from the CMS side in H1 tag, H4 tag, and in H4 tag, it is rendering here the way we want. This is the way how we can define our component and render the data from the CMS side. But this is there is one issue with rendering the data in div or ptag directly with this. So from the front end side, this will work properly what we are expecting. But if we consider about the experience edited scenario, this will not work. So what happened when we looked into the experience editor, our front end code will once will deploy, then it will show the in the experience editor, and in editor also, it will simply render this string or HTML block. But we want the functionality that we can modify our fields data from the experience editor. So if we simply add div with dangerously aside HTML, or we simply add in the p tag, it will not work. For that, we need to use the components that our Sitecore JSS is providing out of the box. So for that, what we need to do is we need to use simple rich text that is providing by the Sitecore JSS out of the box functionality. So okay. there is one more issue that the component name that Sitecore gives us to do the functionality for the experience editor working as well as the front end side is also have the same name like our component rich text. So I will simply just a minute. I will import that rich text function. So both have same name. This rich text also and this rich text also. So I will simply add uh, as keyword over here and will change that component name CSS rich text on. And in that I will simply pass my field text. So here, this is the normal structure that if we define any variable from the CMS side, we will get into the object, and in value we will get the exact value of uh, the data of the field. So here we don't need to write any value or any other JSON value or any other thing. It will be taken care by the Sitecore functionality. So here I simply added this JSS rich text block from the Sitecore JSS Next library. So let me run this application. So if here if you see both are the same and you can't see the difference from the front-end browser technology part, but it is different in the experience editor. In experience editor, the first which we are calling from the JSS library, it will be modified by in the experience editor, and this will be some static text only. We can't modify or edit anything from the in experience editor. So there are some other component as well that you can use. This is for the rich text. For the text, you can use this. It is same like this. Even it is there is one more for the link tag. As per our requirement, we can add um, link this link. And if you have any link, you simply add this. Same like this. If you have any link field, you can use link component as well, which are from the this Sitecore JSS package only. So this is how we can configure our component and we can run our application in Sitecore JSS. I hope this is clear and um, under will understand by everyone. So if anyone have any question, we can discuss then. Otherwise, I will move to React part. Okay, I'm okay. So now let's move to the React part. This is we already covered. Yes. So, as we all know about know that what is React and why we use the React, but let me quickly go through about React. So, mainly React is a latest JavaScript framework, and it gives us a additional features like single page application. And how it is single page application is it is not using direct real DOM, it is using virtual DOM, so it makes application more faster and it gives us uh, single page application functionality. And in React, every page is divided into small chunk. It called as a component. So basically, React and Next.js application is a component based application. So there are some features in the React JS application, which is mainly it help us to manage our state. So there is common features, what are the state and what are the props. But there is common misunderstanding about state and props. So let's look into the difference between state and prop first. So in state, there are fundamentals how React components are structured and how they behave. And in state, state is managed within the component only. So if you add any functionality and on the click on any other event, we need to change and modify some variables and block, and we need to re-enter the component based on that data change. So in that case, you can use the state. Uh, State can be updated within the component and state data that can change over the time. So we can change as per our requirement or as per our event. Similarly, the props is also same, but props are passed from the parent component. Uh, Props are immutable, so we cannot change data from the child component. Also, props main purpose of the props is it's used to pass data to child component. So if I give you a real-time example that my name. So my first name is Krishna and last name is Patel. So uh, Krishna is my state. It is my own identity. And if I talk about my last name, so I get it from my parents. So it considered as a props which I'm getting from my parent. And now let's look into how we can manipulate state, how we can achieve the state management functionality using use state. So in traditional React, we were using the class component. So in class component, it was easy that we simply need to configure our state object in the constructor. But now in latest React, we are mostly use the functional component. So we can't directly call the constructor and other React cycles that were in class component. So this use state hook will help us to manage the state in the functional component. So now let's look into it, how we can configure. So, okay, so okay, this is the simple syntax of configuring state. So I simply added use state hook over here and pass one parameter. So this parameter work as an initial value. So the initial value that you require for the state, you can pass over here. It can be anything. You can pass string, boolean, object, array, or you can pass the function that returns some value. So this is how you can configure your state hook. In return, it will give array with two elements. First one is a state value, and second one will be the function that we can use to update the state value. And we are importing use state from the React library only. So let's console render our state over here. So you can see here, I simply rendered the state value over here, and right now my initialized value for the name state is Krishna. I can change it anything Boolean as well. Um, False. Maybe it will not. Hmm. It will work as a condition. It will not render directly like this. So we're passing 0 or anything you can pass. You can pass array, object, anything. Now let's look into that how we can change the state value. So I'm adding one button. Yes, I will simply change the name using this function. Okay. So when I click on this button, it will change the state value. So if you notice that it is changing the value, and we don't need to refresh the page. We don't need to do anything externally. It is so simple using this use state hook. So this is how we can configure our end state and how we can manage the our state. Now let's look into effects. So for an example, I have one scenario that my initial state value is Krishna, but when it value changed to the Sukhmain or any other variable, I need to render one more component. So for that or any other scenario, we can use the use effect. So let's go to the PPT first. Use effect hook. So the use effect hook is fundamental hook in the React component that allow us to side effect in the functional component. So when our page will load at initial level, we need to call API. For an example, I have one scenario that in my component, the first time it load, I need to call an external API to get my data. So in that case, also I can use the use effect. If there is one scenario, if the particular state value will change, I need to render that particular block of the code. In that case as well, we can use the use state effect. Even for the component unmount scenario, like if I'm moving to my component to another component and I need to stop some functionality. So in that case as well, we can use the use effect based on our dependency and our logic. So just can do. I'm adding dependency over here. Okay, so here you can see first it will render the onload console log that first time console component is loaded, and it will call that use effect of block. Then it will set the state value. In that case also that state value will change, so it is rendering that block of code like name value has changed. If I click on the button that will actually change the state value, then again it will call the name value has changed. So basically, as per our requirement, we can um, use our use effect. So if you notice, only when this value change, this block of the code render, at that time this was not rendering. So we can okay, if I give some okay, we will look into the one more example that I already created, tabs component. So, okay, here in about page, Diptano already configured the tabs component, and if we check what in tabs component are did what data are coming in tabs component, so okay, so in fields there is one tab list array of object in array of object there are three datas are coming in data. Uh, First one is display name. In display name, tab one. Then for the second display name, it is showing tab two. Third, it's tab three. And in that display name, there is one more field component. In that, title and descriptions are coming. So I already prepared one example which shows use state and use effect hook in detail. Just a minute. Okay. So I have configured this simple tabs component over here. So at initial level, tab state have tab 1 value. When I click on the tab 2, the state value will change, and based on that state value, it will render the data it below the title. So if I go to the tab 1, it will render the tab 1 title and tab 1 description. Then if I go to the tab 2, it will render the tab 2 data. Similarly for the tab 3. So let's look into how I have configured. So in tag section, I simply added div. Right now I'm using inline CSS over here, but it is just for the look and feel. Uh, Now let's not look into that part. Simply, I added the div tag over here. Then we are getting tab list as an array of object from the field. So for the array, I simply added the map loop over here. And in map loop, I'm simply rendering the div with the type display name. So this part of the code will render this title blocks, this three title block. And if I click on the any div, it will call the handle tag click function. And what I did in handle click function, I simply ret updated the state value. So okay, so I have simply configured one state. In that state, state name is active tab, and function of update that state is set active tab. In that, I'm simply passing the initial value, that first array of object as a initial value. So when we click on the handle tab click, it will simply set whole tab value, like this whole tab value in the state in form of object. So and then if this parameter value, if this state value change, I'm simply rendering that particular active tab field title and description over here. So if I console log as in that state is okay. So at initial level, we don't have we haven't any click event from the user end. So what I did is simply uh, setting first object as an initial value. So this is the first object that I set at initial value, and as this is the selected value, so it will render the data title and description. So you can see tab one and this uh, this tab one title and this description. If I click on this title, it will change the whole state object for the tab two. So if you now you can see it is setting the data for the tab two and it will render the title and description for the second tab. So this is how tab component will sorry state management will work. So uh, this is what state management will work. And there is one more scenario for the router that I want to present over here. But Varalakshmi, I think we are out of the time. So should I continue or not?
Yeah, I think we can stop. We can continue in the next session. So if there are any question, I think people can ask by unmuting themselves.
Yes. Anyone have any question?
Yeah, if any
Okay.
doubt, also you can reach out to us in the LinkedIn channel. We encourage more to ask the question as it is a training based sessions. So, yeah.